lovely people, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all well. Today we are back with another nervous guide video. If you've never been here before and you don't know what one of those is, then stick around for 2 seconds and we'll get into it and explain what happens on this channel normally with theatre stuff. But yeah, let's get into this video. I don't know what my hands are doing, and we'll get back in a couple of seconds. So we are here with the nervous guide for this little pretty show right here. A Curious Case of Benjamin Button. An Unordinary Musical. That's quite a long title, isn't it? Doesn't win the longest title of the year, which I think is for black boys, but could be Two Strangers Carry a Cake Across New York. It's the year of the long musical theatre show names. But back on to this one. I recently saw it, loved it. Spoiler alert for the next video. Speaking of the next video, on this channel, normally I like to do 2 separate videos on each show I see. Number 1 being this one. This is a nervous guide when we talk about experience, any content warnings, any sensory warnings, my experience in the theatre. The second video we tend to do is the review. The review is where we discuss what I enjoyed, what I didn't enjoy, how it made me feel, thoughts and feelings on cast, crew, creative, everything. I usually put review in inverted commas because I am very much not a professional. I just like to spout out everything that I think about a show, because 9 times out of 10 I will watch a show independently on my own as a solo watcher, and that means I have no one to chat to about it. So I sit on a bed and talk into a camera. But moving back into this show here, this is currently on at the Ambassadors Theatre in London. I had never stepped foot into the Ambassadors until this year, and now I've been twice in a year for 2 separate shows, and I don't think it's going to be my last time in the theatre next year, because I probably shall return to this little nugget of theatre-ness. Let's first talk about the theatre itself, as we kind of got to it round the back. I was sat in row M, seat number 9, which is kind of central towards the back. There is a slight overhang, but hopefully, as the picture that's currently floating by my head is showing you, the overhang doesn't cause too many problems. There's only a couple of times where you lose the top of people's heads as they exit the stage on the slightly higher level, but nothing major goes on there. They just disappear off stage through a gap up there somewhere. So you do not miss anything by being down in the stalls with that overhang, but it is something I want to mention because it is there. The only other thing to mention about the Ambassadors and my experience there is the toilets. The toilets at the Ambassadors Theatre, or at least at stalls level, which is technically in between the entrance area where you come in and the stalls level, it's halfway down a set of stairs. They are some of the narrowest toilets to exist. There is one theatre that I've been at which beats it, and one day I might get back to that show and we'll discuss it again. But they are close quarters. There is 2 toilets and there's always a queue. I've never been there where there hasn't been one, unless you are like super speedy fast and you are there straight after the curtain or the blackout happens at the end of Act 1. It's just the way it is. Speaking of the blackout, let's get into the sensory and content warnings. Let's start with sensory, as I've kind of mentioned it. Act 1 both starts and finishes with a blackout. The bonus of where I sat is that the lighting or sound are in a box of sorts behind you, so it's never fully completely dark, but it is quite, if you are further forward, I'd assume you are pretty much in the dark and you start in a blackout. The only other sensory moment I had was again in Act 1, during the story which is being told of Benjamin Button himself. At one point in the story, it is wartime, he enlists into one of the armed forces, and at that point there is a sound of a bomb explosion, which then is followed by a blackout again. Only very brief, but it is something to be aware of. None of the sound effects in this show are particularly loud. There isn't a lot of sound effects used, mainly just the one of the bomb explosion, and it is kind of expected. It wasn't a very sudden bang blackout moment. Sensory wise, it wasn't a sensory heavy show. It is an emotionally heavy show, which we'll get into in the next video, but sensory wise, that was mainly all I had to mention. On the content side, with the help of TodayTix, which is why I'm currently looking at my phone, there is a few things to be aware of. So according to TodayTix, the things to be aware of, we have references to and depictions of childbirth, miscarriage, postnatal depression, suicide, attempted suicide, death of an infant/child, death resulting from terminal illness, death resulting from drowning, death resulting from a gas explosion. Like I said, emotionally heavy show, but yes, make sure you take your tissues, make sure that you read up on the sensory and content warnings for yourself. I didn't see any QR codes or anything around the building. It's very much find them yourself, or look on the likes of TodayTix. But I just wanted to make you aware of everything that I have just said. It is also put on TodayTix as recommended 12+, and although there is not a lot of swearing or anything like that, it is quite an emotionally heavy show, so it is something to be aware of. Also, and this is something I don't mention too often in these videos, but the running time of this show is 2.5 hours with an interval. I didn't feel long, it felt perfectly formed. I don't think I could have taken anything out of it, and I probably will be returning. So I think we all know what I'm going to say in the second video, but that will happen soon enough, and I'm going to stop talking now because you don't need to hear my voice anymore. All that's left to say is the usual, and that is thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you come back for more theatre based fun and frolics next time. But all that's left to say now is the usual, and that is this, and that is so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, and goodbye. My hands, who knows. Bye.